Another question I always get asked is what string gauges do I use and what tuning am I in? Well, right now I'm mostly using drop A flat, the standard Periphery, Tesseract, whatever tuning for gent. And as for strings, I use those one. Dear Dario EXL Baritone Light or EXL 158. This is a 13 to 62 string gauge set. I really love the 62 on the low end for that A flat note. It's not too floppy and not too tight. You get it's a real nice tension for me personally. It's just a 6-string set, so I also always get a single. Well, this one is 11. I usually get 10 for this. Yeah, it's a nice setup. I like it a lot. I also get very often asked to give my feedback on mixes, and some of you may have noticed I don't exactly respond to those requests anymore. Well, please don't take it personally, but it's just getting really strenuous and stressful. I mean, at first I really liked giving feedback because it also helped me train my hearing and my listening capabilities and dissecting mixes and whatnot. But now it's just really strenuous to concentrate on all those mixes I get from people and giving detailed feedback. The best tip I can give you is to compare your mix a lot to other bands whose mixes you like. Yeah, audio interfaces such as the Pod UX1 and UX2. I think there's a bit of confusion in the difference between that Pod UX1 or UX2 and the Pod X3 or XT. Let's just take the example of a Pod X3. It's an amp modeler, so it's a piece of gear that processes the sound and sends it to your computer, and you can also use it as audio interface. But with a real audio interface only, all the software and processing goes on your computer. So, you know. So another one is my stance on Superior Drummer versus Studio Drummer. It's really, I mean, you shouldn't count on my preference now. It's totally up to anybody. But to me personally, if you do want to know, I like Studio Drummer a bit better. For the sound of it, because with Superior Drummer, yeah, it's very easy to make it sound over-processed and too clean, too tight, and too futuristic. I don't know if you understand what I'm getting at, but Studio Drummer seems to sound more natural to me, more like a real drum kit. But of course, in Superior Drummer, I love working with the mixer because you have totally free options. You know, you can put all the insert effects that you need and whatever you want to do, and buzzing and also parallel compression and whatnot. In Studio Drummer, it's not like that. You have a very basic mixer. There's no option for rooting or buzzing anything, and there's also no option for parallel compression. So it's very, very basic. But the effects on there, the compressor and EQ, also has a tape saturation effect. Those are pretty top notch. But yeah, so far I like this one a bit better. Another problem that I find a lot is mixing up Gearbox and Pod Farm. They're really two totally different things. Gearbox only controls your Pod X3 from your computer. It does not process the sound or anything. Pod Farm, on the other hand, does process the sound. So, and another one that I get asked quite frequently is, what screen capture program do I use? Well, I use this one right here. how you pronounce this, debut or debut, or I don't know. I think it's debut or I don't know. Just you people tell me. Debut video capture software. It does what I want it to do. It's pretty good. It does what it's supposed to do. Then also some frequently asked questions on gutgent.com. One is, how do I get a gent tone? That's like easy to ask, but there's so much to it actually. You'll find a lot that people insist it's all in the fingers and gear has nothing to do with it. To me it's that's my personal opinion now. For me it's a 50-50 distribution, you know? You gotta have some of the right gear. I mean, try genting with a Fender Bassman. Forget about it. Of course, a lot is in the technique, you know, getting that hard picking and digging into the strings really hard and palm muting really hard. But of course, gear is also important to some extent. I mean, best would be a high-gain model, such as a Mesa Boogie rectifier or PV5150 or an Angle Invader or whatever. Of course, you have all the stuff in an amp modeler. Maybe not as good quality as a real tube amp, but in this gent scene they seem to be very widely distributed and loved. I also have a Pod HD Pro now. Sounds awesome. Also before the amp, a boost pedal or distortion pedal would be quite good. The Tube Screamer is very much favorited because it adds a lot of crunch and crispiness to your tone, especially when you crank up the tone knob on that Screamer emulation. And also gating, of course, is important. In my signal chain I put a gate on the first position, then comes a compressor, then the Tube Screamer, then a second gate, and then the amp, and then post EQ. Yeah, something like that. There's actually the real original gent tone, that heavy palm muted metallic sound. You can do this with a lot of stuff. I admit it, that's really mostly technique, you know? I mean, I even managed to pull that off on a little 15 watt Marshall amp combo from a friend of mine. But the other sound that's incorporated into gent a lot, that open note, growling crunch, for this you really need to watch a little more in the gear. Because you want it to be powerful on the low end as well as crunching in the mid-range and precise on the high end. I mean, if it's all washed up and too much distortion and too undefined and honky and muddy, then forget about it. Then another one is string gauges versus scale length. Often people ask, if my scale length is not that long, will thicker strings suffice? Well, no. Because with a longer scale length, you give the strings more room to swing at those frequencies more clearly and also over a longer period of time. So you have a more defined low end when it has more room to swing, you know? And when they're shorter, you just make them thicker, the strings, it won't help. I mean, you can try this out with a rubber band, you know? When you pick a rubber band at two further apart spots and then find a low pitch, you notice it holds longer, but when you put the dots further together and then try to get the same pitch, you notice it rings out rather quickly. So there you can already see, you know, with longer scale you get a more defined and better, clearer, cleaner low end. So yeah, if you only have a 25.5 scale guitar and you want to tune really low, then you might want to get a new guitar.